Chapter 15. A Regrettable Transaction. "Uh-oh," Barnaby A. said as they approached their own house at the end of their outing. "What's that on the sign?" They had all become very accustomed to the "For Sale Cheap" sign that was still tacked to their window box, and to the tacked-on edition that announced the reduction of the price. And they were so accustomed to scurrying into their disguises and poses at the approach of prospective buyers that Jane could become a lamp in very few seconds, and Tim could burrow under his fur rug in no time at all. Nanny took a little longer to transform herself into a statue of Aphrodite because, of course, she had to shed her clothes and powder herself and wrap herself in a sheet, all a little time-consuming. But it was routine by now. The real estate agent would call to announce a showing of the house, and all of them would automatically move into their places, waiting for the sound of her key in the front door lock. Usually the showings were very short. Sometimes the prospective buyers never even reached the upstairs. That was always a bit of a disappointment to Nanny, and she was thinking of moving her statue's position perhaps to the parlor where people would have a better view of Aphrodite. "Curses!" Tim said in horror as he ran forward and read aloud the further addition to the sign. "Look at this! How could this have happened? We've been sold!" "Oh no!" Barnaby B. groaned. "We should never have gone for a walk." "Terrible things always happen when one is out for a walk," Jane pointed out sadly. "Remember Little Red Riding Hood? And oh dear, Hansel and Gretel?" Nanny opened the door and hurried inside. On the hall table she found a hastily written note. "It's from the real estate agent," she explained, with a worried look, and read it aloud to the children, who had gathered around her. "Congratulations! I'm sorry you weren't home when I called to announce our visit, but the house looked lovely and smelled so appealing, raisin cookies, I think, and the prospective buyer fell in love with it and has given me a ton of money. You have 2 weeks to leave. Please feel free to take your undies. Good luck." "Oh no!" the twins wailed. "Drat!" said Tim with a scowl. Jane stamped her foot and began to cry. "Let us not waste time with tears and useless expostulations," Nanny told them. "What if this were a story in a book with a well-worn maroon leather binding? What would good old-fashioned people do in this situation?" "They would call the sheriff," Tim said. "Murder the villain," the twin suggested. Jane simply continued to sob, and Nanny handed her a lace-trimmed hanky. "They would make a plan," Nanny announced. "But first," she added, heading toward the kitchen and reaching for her apron where it hung on a wall hook, "they would bake a lemon soufflé." She opened the refrigerator and took out some eggs. While the soufflé was in the oven, and during that time they were all required to tiptoe because heavy footsteps can ruin a baking soufflé. Not many people know this, Nanny pointed out, and that is why there are so many ruined soufflés in the world. The mail was delivered in a whoosh through the mail slot in the front door. "No!" wailed Tim, holding up a postcard. "They've again survived!" Everyone tiptoed to his side, even Nanny, though she checked the oven time first, because a soufflé must be very carefully timed, she had told them, and not many people were careful enough about this aspect of soufflé baking. Tim read the card aloud. "Dear ones." "Ha!" they all said aloud, but quietly because of the soufflé. Excessive noise can be the death of a soufflé, Nanny had explained. "Such an adventure. The helicopter crashed and the pilot plummeted into the raging volcano. Cleverly, we clung to a rotor and were spun to safe ground. Only the pilot was lost, and it didn't matter because he was a Presbyterian. We wonder why the house is still unsold. Perhaps it is because of the cat. Please have her put to sleep." Jane looked down at the cat, who had just rubbed against her legs with a loud purr. "She sleeps every night, and a lot during the day as well," she said. "Why should we put her to sleep more often? When would she pounce about chasing bits of fluff?" Her brothers looked meaningfully at each other, wondering whether to explain to Jane what their parents had meant. Nanny shook her head at them, so they remained silent. "Does it say anything else, or just end with that cruel sentence about the cat?" Barnaby A. asked. "A bit more," Tim continued reading. "Now off to our next excursion, and this one on our own. No more guides for us. We are to climb an Alp. One that has never been successfully climbed. It is cluttered with frozen bodies, but we are prepared. We have brought pittons for our feet and crampons to attach to our heads." "I don't think pittons are for your feet," Barnaby B. said. "I read a book about mountain climbing. Pittons are spikes that you hammer into the ice." "I read the same book as B," said his twin. "Crampons are for your feet. For your boots, actually. Why would they put them on their heads?" "Because they are dolts," Tim said, remembering again that Nanny had outlawed the word and looking at her defiantly. "They are dolts indeed," Nanny said. She stared at the postcard and murmured, "I myself am a Presbyterian." Jane was on her knees, playing with the cat. "Where are we going to live?" she asked piteously. "And can the cat come?" The kitchen timer buzzed, and they tiptoed to the kitchen to eat souffle and make a plan.